Hey everyone, and welcome to the Indieheads podcast. I'm your host, Matty, at Monrovian Prince on Twitter. On this week's podcast, we have
Zach at Waffle113. I'm back.
It's your boy Will for Thrill.
I'm Small Man at Orange Schmorange on Twitter.
aka that boy Alex, our baby boy. Our baby boy.
I haven't been on in a very long time.
Yes, it has been a while. The last time you were on...
It's been like 3 months, right?
I think the last time you were on, besides the IRL podcast that I think we're hopefully going to be releasing tonight along with this new podcast. Shit, I can't. It's been a while. Like, I know you were on...
I think the last time...
It was the podcast we did after Pitchfork, and then before that it was the AMSP podcast.
Okay.
I was thinking the last time you were on was when Neutral Milk Hotel dropped their last album.
Ooh. Well, speaking of Neutral Milk Hotel, let's just go straight into the news.
Are they back?
Mangum.
Daddy.
Are they back?
We're back, baby. We're back.
I think.
Well, actually, no. We're not sure yet. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss the what if. So let me explain, guys.
So.
Wait, Alex, do you want to explain, or you want me to explain?
I'd be happy to take it.
Okay, I'll let you take it over here from here.
So,
Alex.
in my mind, two things are possible. Oh, should I explain the story first?
Explain what's happening.
All
That's
right.
why I
just
okay.
Short version.
So Jeff Mangum, I'll do the short version. Jeff Mangum is an artist boy, and he's been doing drawings, and that's been one of his forms of activity since releasing music. He's done a series of drawings recently that he's been selling on the Neutral Milk Hotel website that all say The Book Cipher Sings on it, and in some form of another, double album or LP3.
or 2017.
I don't know if it was LP3. Oh, right, no, not LP3. 1, 2, 3, which would suggest a third Neutral Milk Hotel album.
I thought it was like it had
Jeff
a
Mangum
double
is
album.
definitely aware of the implications of the things he is writing. So there's no doubt that he has intentionally written double album. However, he could just be fucking with us. He has said in the past that he is never going to release more music. But the other possibility is that we know he's kept writing songs. That's factual. He has said that he has kept writing things. The other possibility is that he wrote a bunch of things and is like, hey, I think these things are worth releasing and I want them to be out there, or he needs money. And he is deciding to put out an album. If he puts out an album, I think it'll be quite alright. I don't think it'll live up to anyone's expectations because they're astronomically high, but I think Jeff Mangum is a brilliant writer, and I don't think that's something that is gonna change. Like, a lot of lyricists that get bad over the years weren't really, like, that great to begin with. They just kind of were able to capture something. Kind of maybe because of where they were in their life, or,
Well, that's the thing, though. That's what I'm going to interject here.
So,
that's like,
all right,
that's what the
I know what you're going to say.
I know, no, but I'm going to say it. Let me say it anyways, though, okay? Because you were talking too long.
Yeah.
Okay, but, like, that's the thing, like, In the Airplane Over the Sea was, like, a momentary, a moment of inspiration for Jeff.
So, that
when
album...
he exceeded his, like, possibilities as a songwriter.
That album was about his nightmares about the Holocaust, and among other things, obviously.
It was about him reading the Diary of Anne Frank.
It was fueled by that, and reading the Diary of Anne Frank, and his crazy fever dreams. But at the core of those songs is incredible poetry, not just because of the subject matter, but because of how he wrote it, how he codes messages, and like just kind of his approach. And that's not something that I would think has gone away. And like with a lot of great lyricists, they might put out bad songs, they might put out bad records, they might put out a long stretch of bad records, but they don't like with Bob Dylan, there are great like pieces of poetry to be found throughout his discography, and I don't think that's something that really leaves you. You can be uninspired and make bad work, but I don't think Jeff Mangum is a like one and done type of guy. I don't know.
See, I kind of disagree. Or things that thing with the Neutral Milk Hotel is that their sample size is so small, like with 2 albums and a couple of EPs, Lucy's here and there. That's hard to even say really what Neutral Milk Hotel is.
Yeah.
So,
That's
like,
fair.
I mean, the thing is that it could be, like, I think that this album could be anything. It could be a masterpiece or it could be a awful album. Like, I just don't know.
That's kind of what I was saying.
See,
Like, it's just
I
been
don't
so
know.
long, and that he was such a flash in the pan to start with. That's just like it could be anything.
See, the question I was going to try to bring up, the discussion is, do we really need a third Neutral Milk Hotel album? And
The answer is no.
The thing is that
I'm gonna
usually
disagree.
I'm against people saying that like usually when people say like, oh, I don't want another American football or Avalanches or whatever, like I feel like this kind of like or like what any of them name. Like, it's like, oh, I don't want them. Like, I want them their legacy to be pure or whatever. Like, I'm like, fuck that. Like, just if they want to release music, whatever. If it's good, if it's bad, you still have the music you like. But with Neutral Milk Hotel, it's kind of different for me. Just because I feel like in the Airplane Overseas was such a perfect artistic achievement. That's what I was looking for. And I just feel like there's no possible way for him to improve upon it, and I just don't feel like his skills were that transferable. Like I kind of just disagree with Alex there.
See,
I feel like there's a lot of places. There's a
wasn't-
lot of reasons for it to go wrong.
I said he's not going to improve upon it. I was just saying I think he's a good writer, and there's a chance for him to make a good album.
I think he's
See,
a good
that's
lyricist, but that doesn't mean that that'll make a good songs or album.
see, God, let me speak. Like, he's such an interesting songwriter. Like, you listen to In the Airplane Over the Sea, you go, God damn, this guy is just so, like, fascinating as a songwriter. And I want to hear more of him. Like, I really want to hear, like, if he has something that he thinks is worth releasing, like, I want to hear it because he's so goddamn fascinating. Like, I want to see what he's been up to, pretty much. Like,
See,
Yeah, I
I'm with
agree.
you
I
that I'm
don't-
optimistic.
I don't care if he's trying to improve it. Like, here's the thing. I think you guys are looking at it wrong. Seeing like, oh, can he improve upon In the Airplane Over the Sea? Fuck improving. Let's just see what he does. Like, maybe he'll do something completely
I agree.
different.
See,
you
see,
know?
like that's usually my perspective, but like for me, I guess In the Airplane is the one pure.
See, the thing is,
thing.
we're all arguing different things.
Like
We're all making
basically
points,
like
and they're slightly contrasting, but they're different arguments.
As long as we're all arguing Jeff Mangum's solo album, have we considered that? Maybe it's that.
But that's basically what it was, except for In the Airplane
Yeah.
Over the Sea.
That's kind
Or
of
that
what
was
Neutral
basically
Milk
just a
Hotel
solo
was.
moniker.
He just brought in some other musicians to play on his songs.
But yeah, I think the world needs. I want to hear Jeff Mangum again. Like, I want to hear him. It's been too long since we've heard new things from him, and I want to see what. I just want to see what he does. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. I want to see if he does something new. I want to hear it.
Here's a
That's
concern
fair.
that I haven't heard, actually. That is one of mine. And I'm not concerned about his writing, as you know. His vocals.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. You saw him live. How are they?
I saw him live twice. The second time, they were all right. But they've gotten, I don't know, they were a lot less charming than they were on the record and than they were in past, like, live performances I've watched on YouTube. They were just, like, flat out into the nasally territory. And, I don't know, people tend to work until they get it right in studio recordings, so who knows. But I'm a little concerned.
I want to
Concerned.
segue into one of our main topics, but it's a little too soon. Like American football, there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, is a natural American football too. That's a natural jumping off point.
Are we just gonna go straight to main topic, or are we gonna skip the other news?
What are
Nah.
other
Look,
See, Bobby D.
we can skip Bob.
Oh,
Bobby KK TLDR. Bobby got Nobel. He ain't having it.
He didn't. Well, no. See, he did acknowledge it. And you want to know how he acknowledged it?
No,
he
I mean,
updated his store.
No, but that was a week ago, Alex, and they unupdated it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, like that thing you posted the chat earlier was like posted on October 20th.
Oh God, I missed that.
And they like put it up there for like a day, and then they took it off his webpage.
That's really funny. I love that Bob Dylan is curving the Nobel Prize committee.
Well, like
that's the
like
most Bob Dylan thing in existence.
It really is. That's like
they were curving the Nobels for giving him the award for
this
literature.
is exactly what he did with Self-Portrait.
God, God, oh Jesus Christ.
God bless.
There's not much
All
to
right.
say. Main topic.
Yeah, I think.
Wait,
let's go
wait.
with
Can
American
we
football.
actually talk about Soulja Boy and Bow Wow?
No.
Can we not?
Really quick. I'm actually
Zach,
optimistic.
wait. Okay,
All right,
who
let's
put?
talk
Okay,
about American
Alex, did you put this on the schedule? Did you put? This
I
on-
didn't.
did.
I actually
did.
Zach, fucking Will. God
I-
damn it, motherfucker.
I just wanted to put that on.
Alex,
there.
Alex, you got like you got.
I wanted to
until-
wet the beak.
You got 1 minute. 1 minute to
Right.
talk about it. Go.
So, I'm not optimistic about the quality of the project, but I am optimistic about the idea of a Soulja Boy and Bow Wow album in 2016 being really entertainment, at least for the value that it exists. All right, let's move on.
Okay. Actually, spoiler: it dropped last night, and I listened to like 30 seconds of like half the songs, and it wasn't good.
Of course,
No,
it's
no,
not good.
But not like in like, oh, like this is entertaining that this exists kind of way. Even it was just like, this is mediocre and uninteresting.
Like,
But
okay,
isn't at least kind of funny that they made it at all?
No, the headline is funny, which is why I.
Yeah.
like here's the thing with Soulja Boy. I think we can all agree that we respect Soulja Boy for his contributions to hip hop and being one and basically being one of the first, if not the first, rapper to use the internet as his platform to launch himself.
Yeah,
into
he
the
was
stratosphere.
viral.
That's respectable.
Hey, who here didn't watch the YouTube video of how to do the Soulja Boy Tell 'em dance?
I probably
Everyone
watched it at
watched-
some point.
I watched that video and tried to learn the dance.
I was a defender at the time.
So, I mean, so was I, but that was just like the zeitgeist. That was like the song. Everyone knew Soulja Boy.
And then, of course, him and Lil B basically taught people, hey, here's how you promote yourself as a rapper on the internet. Whereas Soulja Boy basically as soon as he got famous, he was like, kind of, like he was halfway between like fuck the internet and I love the internet. But Lil B was like, Lil B lives and breathes the internet, and I love him for that. Lil B is like, Soulja Boy is the first rapper to launch himself to the internet, but Lil B is the first internet rapper, if that makes any sense.
He also has the best Twitter of all time.
Yes. Will, do you
But,
got
no, he has the best old tweets of all time.
What?
His new tweets are kind of hit or miss.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. His back.
Like 2010, 2011, he was ahead of his time.
He was the GOAT in his early career.
Like no one realized how good he was until like 2014.
I'm not even sure he knew how GOAT he was.
I mean, I think he knew, because he literally, every tweet he made, at least, like back then had the little B at the end of it, probably. And, he called himself the bass god. Like, he knew.
Yeah. Well, he knew he was hot shit. He
exactly.
is.
Goth lives matter. Goth. Emo cuties. That's from last year. That's a pretty good tweet.
I think my favorite is masturbation has ruined my life.
my favorite is
I simultaneously identify with that and think it's hilarious.
My favorite is man, I have turned emo. It's very fun and relaxing. Plus, you
Also,
don't get excited about anything.
The Kardashian tweet.
Oh, I was getting ready to pull that up.
That was kind of awful because he's like, "Hey, I'm trying to." I don't know. It feels like moderately sexist at the very least, but it's you can't take it seriously.
That's rap.
so
That's
it's,
rap,
like,
baby.
Really funny.
Hold on, where's that tweet?
I don't think he ever topped cursing Kevin Durant.
The thing is, the bass god's curse, it is real. It is as real as it gets.
But the base
So
god,
real.
the
I
blessing
control
is not
the
real.
skies.
The base god blessing has no weight.
Oh god, hey, it's God. I'm in LA and I want butt from you or your sister. I cannot take no for an answer. I control the skies. Hold on, let me find the Kanye tweet real quick.
See, that tweet is kind of like, I don't know. Part of me, like the woke part of my brain is like, that's rape culture, but it's just too absurd to be like actual problematic.
Speaking of rape culture, if Kanye West doesn't acknowledge me over Twitter and work with me on music, when I see him, I'm going to fuck him in the ass.
Another one of the greatest tweets.
Okay, we gotta get to the main topic.
Wait. Real quick. Have you guys seen the video of him going through his old video games and just calling every single one of them extremely rare?
Literally, seriously,
he's got all these old like PS2 cases, and he's like,
Lil B, like, he influenced hip hop, like, internet culture so much. Like, you go on hip hop forums back in the day, like KTT and Odd Future Talk, and probably some other one I can't remember. And like Lil B, he affected the language, like extremely rare, based. You know, like these things were like they're Lil B isms, and they've kind of stayed in place over the years. And I appreciate Lil B a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
I Lil B, like, here's the thing, like, Lil B is respected by everyone. Like, everyone respects Lil B. Kendrick respects Lil B. Kanye respects Lil B. Probably hasn't made any public acknowledgement, but like, I know he respects Lil B. Drake probably respects Lil B. I feel like he actually has acknowledged the bass god in some shape or form. Drake has. He has to have. He's got.
So, the interesting thing about Lil B is he got big because people weren't taking him seriously. Like, he affected the culture so much because people were like, "Hey, this guy is fucking out there."
We need to move on.
It is some of the greatest performance art of our time, because I think people still don't know, like, is he actually being, like, serious, or is he playing a character? Like, he's basically the Andy Kaufman of rap. Like, he really is. Let's be real. Yeah. But yeah, main topic, Will is correct. We need to move on to our main topic, which is going to be an album catch-up. We have not done one of these in a while. We have a lot of albums to talk about tonight. Some of them we'll be talking about very briefly, some more in depth. The first album of which is, Will, I'll let you take it from here.
Well, yeah. Let's since we're talking about Neutral Milk Hotel, let's talk about American Football LP3.
Oh, we're starting for that. Okay.
So is it? Yeah, I feel like that's the more appropriate jumping off point.
Okay, go ahead.
Then we can. So, who has anyone else here listened to it?
I did. Nope. It was forgettable.
Folks, it's not good. So the thing that was interesting about this album to start with is that most of the time when we have these albums like My Bloody Valentine, Neutral Milk Hotel, Avalanches, we haven't heard anything from them during their hiatus. So like we really don't know what to expect. But this one's different because Mike Kinsella's been in numerous bands since then, and he has a solo project, Owen, which he even released an album back in July under a solo project. So we know exactly where he is musically right now.
How are those records? Because I didn't know they existed.
They're okay. I mean, like, some of his stuff's okay. Like, you know, like he's been Captain Jazz, but he was in Captain Jazz before American Football, which is pretty good. And directly after American Football, he was in Owls, which is pretty good. I've only listened to his newest Owen record, which is pretty much exactly like this American Football record here. And yeah, it's just the thing about this album, though, is that it has some interesting guitar parts, but it's all just bland, I guess. Like, wow. First off, the vocals are completely different. And I don't think different is inherently bad. Like, a lot of people on R-Emo are like, oh, people are just upset it's not like the original. But it's like, no, I'm upset because it's really bland and boring and doesn't sound good. Like, the vocals are so annoying, and the melodies just are not stand out at all. I can barely remember any of them. And they just aren't engaging. It's just kind of boring adult contemporary almost. Just kind of fades into the background.
I got nothing to say other than fuck the emo revival once again.
LOL.
And fuck the emo revival's emo revival. Does that make any sense? I have no opinion.
There's this one thing yesterday on MTV about like the American Football album. It's like, when will the real emo revival happen? And then with the subtitle being like, not just these 10-year reunions. And then Ian Cohen tweeted like, bad opinions.
Man, Ian Cohen's such a majestical beast. Honestly, he's such an interesting.
He's the best.
I won't go that far. Or, yeah, I will definitely not go that far.
I mean, that is an awful take. That like there hasn't been an emo revival except for like reunions. Like, that's an awful take.
Like, yeah. For the most part, I despise Ian Cohen, but I have a lot of respect for Ian Cohen at the same time. Like, I hate him.
He does just.
But like, it's like he's a necessary evil in today's music criticism world. You know, like, we need Ian Cohen. We need someone like him.
He's like the Ron Paul.
No, never mind. Okay.
Ron Paul 2012.
Fucking Christ.
He's the Ron Paul of music criticism, I think. and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh god.
So, anyways,
let's get to another album because I don't think there's much else to say.
I mean, it's a boring disappointment.
Let's start going down the list.
But I'm still not disappointed that it exists. Like I'm fine with the fact that they made it. It was just boring.
Speaking of boring disappointments, Lady Gaga dropped a new album called Joanne. Will,
Ah!
why is it boring and disappointing?
Okay, who else? Matty, have you listened to this one?
I haven't, but I want. I probably should do it this week because I.
So you're the weakest link today.
See, I am because I told you guys that before the podcast. Like, hey, I have nothing to say about most of these albums. Like, I'm just here to record, pretty much.
Did you make this list?
No, I didn't make the list. Fucking like.
I made the list.
Like,
and then someone edited it down because I had like 30 albums on there.
I pared it down a bit.
Okay.
And I think Zach did too.
I added like one album.
So the thing with Joanne, I appreciate that she was trying to create like a personal album, trying to do something different for her standards, but her lyricism is not strong enough to support these quiet country songs. And it made the album just kind of not that enjoyable for me. My favorite tracks were the louder, poppier ones like Ayo. Because it's just...
That's Diamond Heart and Perfect Illusion, really. Were the only two that really... So, I can
talk about Perfect Illusion a little bit, because that was a song that at first I did not like, and then I re-listened to it the other day, and I was like, wow, this actually really grew on me. Like, I did.
Yeah, same here. Like, I was really disappointed because it had Kevin Parker and Mark Ronson on production and Josh Homme on guitar. So, like, this should be, of course, Lady Gaga. Like, this should be the greatest pop song of all time. And then it sucked, I thought. But the thing is, once I put that bias aside, I like it. It's good. It's a pretty good song.
Because, I went from this is disappointing to pretty much everything, like, pretty much from the bridge and onward, I like. And now I'm, like, full on, I like this. I like the entire song. What? Who's laughing?
Me.
Alex,
Sorry.
What is going on?
It's an Ian Cohen tweet, actually, that Zach just retweeted. And it's a screenshot of a headline about Muse. And the headline is that Muse wants to do a stage made of magnets so the band can levitate on the next tour. And if that isn't the most, like, Muse thing I've ever read, then I don't know what.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I just derailed the podcast. I'm so sorry.
Like just think about the song Madness by Muse. The annoying little mad, and then them up on stage floating around like goofy fucking...
Also think of even Ian Cohen. How crazy tonight is that they have Cavs opening night, Game 1 of the World Series, and Joyce Manor in the hotel here in Cleveland tonight. That's wild.
Damn.
Yeah.
Greatest night in Cleveland history.
But anyways, but also I saw Lady Gaga. She performed on SNL, which I watched the new SNL episode, which I've been getting really into SNL lately. Like, I just got, like, Life from New York, which is, like, the biography of SNL, which is really good, by the way. If you guys want to pick that up, definitely pick it up. It's definitely worth a read. But yeah, I wasn't really impressed by the songs I heard on SNL either. I was like, this is
they're
really
pretty
boring.
I mean, okay, like someone wrote in like when they're like premature evaluations, like what's a pop star without their hits? And that's pretty much my evaluation of the album. Like,
it's more.
She tried for something new, but it's like,
It's like
respect, I would have adored
hustle,
it
but not much.
If
else.
she had like pulled it off. And I do see Lady Gaga as an artist that tries to push her boundaries, and I appreciate that she's still like trying to do that, but I just don't think it was successful.
We keep getting derailed, and I feel like I'm appropriate for talking about this album because that's how I felt when I was listening to it.
Like, better luck next time, Lady Gaga. Better luck next time.
What was that?
That was like trying to slip in a Calcichesta impersonation.
Yeah, I was never do that again.
Okay. Anyway, since you mentioned Joyce Manor, let's talk about the new Joyce Manor album, Will. Cody. So I might have said earlier on the podcast that fuck the emo revival, but I'm going to take it back somewhat as there is...
I consider them more of the pop punk scene.
Okay.
But alas.
I take back some of my comments on pop punk. I think this is the year that pop punk did finally grow on me. Just enough. Just enough where I like Joyce Manor, I like modern baseball, I like Jeff Rosenstock. We'll talk about Rosenstock a bit later on. But yeah, I really I dug this. I dug this album. I think I enjoyed it. All the singles I really enjoyed. Fake ID's a really good song. Angel in the Snow. What's the other one? Like the second single they dropped.
Last You Heard of Me.
Last time I really enjoyed all those singles. I thought they were all really solid, and the album is pretty great. It's pretty not great. Why am I saying great? Well, I think no. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little out of it on this podcast. But
Yeah, I'll take over. Okay,
please take over until I can talk about Make Me Dumb.
As the resident pop punk boy, I've never been a huge Joyce Manor fan. I like him okay. Actually, the past
too.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
The past couple weeks, couple months, I've actually really gone Never Hungover again. I've grown to really love that album, but still, overall, as a band, I mean, basically they do draw a lot of influence from Blink-182, but like you said but that is a very obvious influence in them. But things that is aren't really as explosive. It's a lot more kind of lo-fi kind of sound. It just doesn't. I kind of like when I prefer my pop punk to kind of pop out, if that makes sense. And I mean, I've Never Hungover again. It didn't really do that, but the songwriting and the melodies are just all so good that I could forgive that. But this one, I mean, they make a couple steps in the right direction, but still just isn't quite there for me. I mean, there's some good songs. Fake ID is a great song. Last You Heard of Me. Make Me Dumb, that's a good one.
That was going to say
Stairs,
that's my favorite song on the record.
Make Me Dumb.
Yeah, Make Me Dumb.
Very
Definitely.
good.
Because I was going to say you're saying Blink-182, which I mean I do hear Blink-182, but I do also hear a lot of Weezer influence too, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a given when you talk about any pop punk band since Blue Album, is that they were influenced by Weezer.
That's true. Thank you, expert. Well,
yeah, but basically, yeah, Make Me Dumb. I don't really hear Weezer in that song, actually. I know you on Symbol you called it a Pinkerton. Sounded like.
It sounded
like
it sounded a little Pinkerton-esque to me, a little bit, in that it was very kind of it was heavier than the rest of the songs on the album, and Pinkerton's a very heavy album when you kind of get into the nitty gritty.
I mean, maybe I don't really hear it, but I won't.
Okay, just
that. And also Stairs. They finally broke the 4-minute song threshold.
Yeah,
which is a big move. So, round of applause for them. So yeah, I mean, definitely. I think Arthi and AJ are the bigger Joyce Manor fans here.
Definitely. What?
So let's talk. No. Let's go on now on pop punk. Let's talk about fucking Jeff Rosenstock.
Oh yeah.
Worry. So boy, oh boy, you want to start, Matty?
Let's see. Jeff Rosenstock, Worry. So this year I got pretty when Rosenstock dropped Festival Song, I really dug that, and I was like, oh, I actually kind of dig this, kind of a nice little discovery. And then Wave Goodnight to Me came out, and I'm like, god damn, this is really good. And I checked out We Cool, and I'm like, god damn, this is really good. I really dig this guy. And Worry came out, and it's one of my favorite albums of the year so far, as it's essentially an album about a third life crisis. Basically Jeff Rosenstock is a third into his life pretty much, and this is his third life crisis, where it describes the album name Worry, where it's very much kind of reminiscing on earlier days and also the future and just being really afraid of everything.
Yeah, that's kind of the theme of the album. It's kind of a continuation of his last album, We Cool, thematically. It's kind of about him being he's spent his entire he's almost in his mid-30s, and he spent his entire adult life being in bands and touring and playing music. So now he's just stopped and looked around and been what the hell am I doing? Because he hasn't been able to have a normal life and get established in a regular routine. So he's kind of having anxiety about what he's been doing with his life and what he's going to do with the rest of his life here.
And also, I think a big thing that I think was talked about is that he got married in between We Cool and this record, which I think.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's not a lyrical theme, but you can definitely kind of get that vibe of he's basically kind of learning. Basically, he's realizing oh shit, I'm growing up now. I'm becoming an adult. Because I want to say I'm not going to be able to completely confirm it, but from looking at the album cover, it does look like it's from his wedding or something, because of what everyone's wearing and just sort of everyone's wearing suits and shit, and it's it seems like it's probably at shot at a wedding, Maybe Rosenstock.
I thought it looked like an old photo.
Yeah, it looked like an old-timey photo to me, but I don't know.
It's actually not old-timey, because, like, I think Rosenstock posted, like, a photo or a video of the guy on the cover, like, of him in, like, in the suit and whatnot. Like, I'll find it real quick. But it's definitely not old.
Black and white. But
Actually, yeah.
The guy's bone structure, though, kind of looks old-timey.
Well, but the fashion there, though, this is a new photo.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the album.
It's old, but not like in the 70s.
I think he intentionally made it look old.
Yes. Okay, continue though.
So yeah, I listened to We Cool last year, and I liked it, but it just wasn't where I was at musically. But whereas now this is very where I'm at musically. This is very for me right now. And I've gone back to listen to that album, and it has some great songs on it. It has some great moments. I dig the overall sound, but just wasn't really. I mean, it just doesn't keep up the steam the entire time. And this album basically takes everything great about We Cool and just, doubles it and keeps it going the entire time. I absolutely adore this album. The first half is kind of more holistic, singular songwriting. And has some great songs, like Festival Song. Like, hearing that song absolutely what drew me in to this. One of the better songs I've heard this year. It has that really anthemic whoa, oh, 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 chorus thing going. And then, Wave Good Tonight to me is awesome. Has a killer guitar solo. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then, where it really picks up is the second half. It's only 38 or 37 minutes. It has 17 songs. That's because the entire second half is like one big medley of like 1.5 minute songs. And it absolutely, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
I don't think I've seen an artist like I'm surprised that no artist has taken advantage. Basically, it's sort of in some ways kind of like a reflection, I guess, on this is just my personal theory. I think I've seen it pop up on like a review or two, where basically the medley is like kind of a reflection on, like, if you guys have not heard about, obviously you've heard Views by Drake. That album is it's 20 songs in total. And the reason why it did so well in the charts was because it had so many songs, and then also added Hotline Bling. And basically it's just sort of like, the more tracks you have, the better chance you have at making money on Spotify. And I feel like, splitting up the second half of the album into like a big giant medley is really interesting. It works really well. Like from a musical and a conceptual standpoint.
Well, I don't feel like that doesn't make sense for an artist like Jeff, though, because he's not making money anywhere. Really, no matter how you slice it, he's not making a lot of money.
That's true. But like, hey, let me have my theories, Will. Let me have my theories.
But yeah, no, I think it's more of just a musical challenge to himself, and he absolutely answers the call. He does a lot of different. I say a lot of different variations of funk. Also obviously lots of pop punk, but then he has like a Rainbow is very ska. He in his past with like bomb the music industry, and he's also worked with what's it called, Real Big Fish, I think, actually, or one of those bands. Shouts out. So this is the only real ska song on this record, but it absolutely delivers. And Plain Up Luxury, that's more of a hardcore punk breakdown. And then you just have all these songs. It's only like a minute and a half, but like, he's able to build like a world and like create, like, establish a catchy melody that you remember. After only like 2 or 3 listens to the album, you remember every melody because they're all so damn catchy with like, we don't want to live inside a hellhole. And then when it gets to While You're Alive, that's probably the most I've smiled listening to a song all year, because he's just talking about like how when you die, people remember you positively and love you, but like he wants to say that kind of thing now and express how much he cares about people now while they're alive, while it matters. And I just love that kind of idea, because I do feel like we live in an age of insincerity where we have to be indirect about our intentions and not be too open. But I just love the idea of just telling people like, hey, I like you, like, even if it's just a friend or a lover or whatever, just being like, hey.
I think that's actually a problem that's been around for a long time, and in some cultures, like some circles, not like, kind of in our American internet culture, has become a much more acceptable thing, and is kind of like, we are moving towards open discussion. I know me, like, I personally, and with a lot of my friends, have been moving in that direction, and have been, like, we've all been really open with each other. And I strive for that in my life and my interpersonal relationships, just, like, you know, telling people when I have a problem with them, or, like, you know, I struggle with it, but, you know.
Yeah,
I think that's an interesting idea for a song. I should listen to this album.
Yeah, and then like I mean that's kind of indirect, but kind of like how like when you're texting like a girl or something, or just even it's like a person like you're supposed to wait like a certain amount of time before responding or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's like, all that kind of stuff is like bullshit. Like I'm just like, hey, I got a text message, I'm gonna respond to it now. Just there's like that kind of bullshit social games or whatever. Like, hey, let's just be honest with each other and just do it.
That might actually be a good segue to the Local Natives album. Especially,
Unafraid to call yourself a feminist.
Yes, see, that's the discussion I want to get into, because you thought that line
let's get into it, but
I want to talk about why the line unafraid to call yourself a feminist is not cringy and is actually kind of brilliant.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's get into this first. Ease into this.
Right.
So yeah, this is Local Natives' third album. And this album has come in kind of divisive among a lot of fans of Local Natives. Like I know Ollie, he was a big Local Natives fan and then absolutely did not like the album. Because they definitely changed up their sound a bit here.
Yeah.
They have a lot more poppy, has a lot that has synths in it, like every other indie band is doing these days.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of love it.
So I saw them live. And they talked about this, so I want to get into that.
So yeah, go ahead.
So Hummingbird was a really dark and sad album. You know, it was still indie pop, but like the songs are very emotionally heavy. And when they came time to write this record, they were in like a kind of positive, optimistic space, and you know they wanted to write for that, and also they probably wanted to make some bank by hopping on some hip alt rock radio trends, and I think they are, and I think that's fine because they brought their songwriting strength and they brought their lyricism. I'm not saying that as articulately as I wanted to, but they still wrote good songs, and it's just kind of in a poppier style, and I don't know. I dig it. I fuck with this album.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't personally out. That's kind of why I like it. I didn't really care for their first two albums that much. I mean, obviously, like, you feel free to call me wrong, but I think those albums are just kind of boring, and it's kind of like.
Oh, you're so wrong.
They just like songs kind of blend together. They don't really feel like they have much dynamic shifts.
If you ever see them live and they play Wide Eyes, that got me into Local Natives. So I loved Hummingbird, but I wasn't that interested in the band, and I went because I needed to write about a concert for one of my classes, and they were coming up, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool to see them. But seeing Wide Eyes live, which is the first song on Gorilla Manor, that changed. I've been listening to them a lot lately.
But yeah, this album, I love it because, I mean, it is kind of a very, like, they do take a very kind of, I want to say generic, but very typical, like, alt radio sound, indie pop sound. But I feel like they just do it so well, and, like... Yeah,
they do it.
They write some good songs.
They bring interesting things to it.
It's like interesting song ideas, and there's like interesting dynamic shifts between the songs.
Like Master.
And they sound more unique.
Guys, I can speak on the alt radio thing because you guys keep bringing that up, and I'm like, oh wait, this is like literally my expertise basically because I work at a college radio station that plays nothing but basically mainstream alt music. And I will say that Local Natives definitely, in some ways, they've taken the sound of like the current alt radio, and they did it really well. I think like Past Lives is really good, and I think Coins is really good. I haven't listened to the album yet because I'm afraid of being disappointed because I love Hummingbird. And I'm like,
yeah,
like I kept hearing too many mixed things because like, you know, Will's like, oh, I really like it, and you hear all this praise, but at the same time though, it's like I keep feeling there's like a mix between them. Like I'll probably check it out before the year ends, hopefully. But yeah. I will say the state of alternative radio right now, it is very poppy. Like So in the 90s, Nirvana came onto the scene, and
Do
basically...
we need to do this right now, Maddie?
I'm not going to go through... Okay,
We've had this discussion before.
We're talking about local natives. Are you going to do, like, the entire history of...
No, like, TLDR. Basically, we've gotten to the point in alternative radio where before the recent more poppy trend kind of came in, it was pretty heavy. Like, it was, like, bands like 3 Days Grace and whatnot, and I guess the current alt trend is, like, kind of in response to that, making a bit more poppy songs, where really, to me, from, like, listening to new alt music, you know, coming in, like, music meetings and whatnot, there are so many bands that are, like, just trying their fucking hardest to just cross over onto the pop charts or, like, get in commercials and whatnot. And I will say that Local Natives, they definitely took the sound of alt radio without being sellouts to alt radio.
Yeah.
In that,
I mean,
they
took
emulated the sound, but they didn't sell out in the process from the singles I've heard. That's
like they took the style, but if you listen to like Masters or Jellyfish, those songs are not what you'd hear on radio.
Right,
as much as like they're so much more
interesting.
interesting and like dynamic and yeah, exactly what you said. Like they have so much more to them sonically than a lot of those songs will, and just and in terms of lyrics too.
Please school me on Masters then.
We're on
that
Masters.
one lyric is awful.
In the Twitter DM, Will said that he thought the line "unafraid to call yourself a feminist" was kind of cringy, and I understand. I very much understand, because I thought so too at first. However, the song Masters very much fits into the theme of like kind of like the general album theme and why they wrote this record, of feeling a lot more optimistic and just kind of looking back on your life and trying to think positively about it. And so Masters is a song about freeing yourself from societal judgments and feeling okay about yourself and who you are right now. So the feminist line really strikes me as an intimate moment within the narrative of the song, because in the song it seems like he's kind of like talking to someone, and you know that it's kind of like I don't know. All right, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna.
I get kind of what you mean. Like
I'm gonna backtrack. That's not my main point though. The point is it's actually meta. So the song is about, you know, like kind of not dealing with the bullshit of like trying to mask your opinions to be more acceptable. Like, you know, and that's probably what you thought it was, but it's actually more directly speaking towards people who would react negatively to being open and being like, hey, I'm a feminist. And just fuck. I'm sorry.
So I kind of get that,
more
but I feel like the lyric was kind of like ham-fisted.
The
way it was placed in the song.
So, you know how it's like quiet
in the song?
Very quiet.
Yeah, that like that line in the song. I think there's intention there. It's highlighted because it's kind of an intimate, emotional moment within the narrative, but I don't think he was trying to really pander. If he was pandering, you know, there are a lot of like loud anthemic moments on this album. If he was trying to pander, he totally could have been like, whoa, feminism, whoa. But he didn't, because it's not what the song is.
All right.
And okay, can we go into another album? I think
I really struggled with that.
Alex is a little flustered.
So I consumed some alcohol.
All right, take an album off.
That's the issue here. I had a much more articulate write out about this song. That was much more clear.
So let's move on to the clipping album.
But yeah, let's move on.
Yes, thank you. Finally.
Oh wait, one last point. This album has hella high school bangers. That's it.
Okay, Zach, you take it.
Okay, so Splendor and Misery. You know, one of our year-end awards probably this year is going to be Breakout Star of the Year, and objectively, it's probably going to be someone like Anderson .Paak or Car Seat Headrest, or maybe Japanese Breakfast. But I think David Diggs has a case. Get a run in an acclaimed musical, win a Tony and a Grammy, drop an EP with Clipping earlier this year, which was fantastic, by the way, get a role on Blackish, sign with ABC to executive produce a sitcom, and then somewhere in there he found time to record and release a new Clipping album? The man's a superhero. How does he do it? But then I actually have to talk about the album, and it's a really mixed bag for me. I'll start with what I like, because there's a lot to like on the album, I think. The concept part of concept album, I think, is rock solid. They nailed that. Transitions are clean, the plot is consistently followed, and it arrives at a good conclusion. The narrative they craft on this album is solid. It's well thought out and clearly very carefully considered. And for the most part, the music comes through too. The production, as always, is solid. David's rapping is great as always. And Air 'Em Out is a genuine Song of the Year contender for me. It might end up being my number one. I don't know yet. There's a lot to consider about that. But the problem is, taken as a whole, like track by track, it's a lot shakier. Outside of the singles and maybe Wake Up, nothing really jumped out to me. And that wasn't the case with their self-titled. There was so much I loved about the self-titled, and there wasn't a whole lot of that on Splendor and Misery. You know what the worst part is? They fucked up the story track! That's unforgivable. That literally dropped it a whole letter grade in my book. It's just... I like the album, don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to love it so much more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, of course, David is one of the best rappers. I think he's technically one of the best rappers in there. I'll put him up with Kendrick, anybody, technically. And obviously the production is usually interesting and the story is great, but it's so like, there's like almost no catchy songs on it, which just makes me never want to come back to it again.
Hold on a sec. I was going to say before Farewell came in, I was going to be like, hey guys, and I don't mean to discredit anything you said because I have not listened to the Clipping album because I kept hearing once again, like same with Little Natives, heard too many mixed things. I'm just like hesitant to check it out. It's very obvious you're a theater kid. Like it's very obvious. Like,
well,
that was the thing. I was like, oh man, he's such a theater kid. It's kind of wonderful to listen to. Yeah.
Alex called me an earnest dad in the chat, which was nice.
Alex,
no, that was good.
You okay, buddy?
But that's pretty much what I want to say is that. I mean, the concept is cool, and the rapping is good, but the songs, the tunes need work.
The sayings.
Yeah.
I was muted and I didn't realize.
That's what I thought. I was like, okay, he's probably muted. He doesn't realize it. But I'm not going to say anything.
I thought something was up when Matty was like, "Are you okay?" And I wasn't really doing anything.
Oh god.
But yeah, I was just in the chat. I was just speaking to like the tone of your voice, just like you sound like a suburban dad. I think it's great. I'm sorry.
All right. So yeah,
What do you got?
Lil was trying to say things, and I'm just I'm muted.
Let's keep it moving.
So let's talk about beach slang.
Oof. A loud bash of teenage feelings. This sounds like an album that would appeal to me.
Yes, so I fell in love with, like, I didn't really enjoy when they released their album last year, The Things We Do to Find People That Feel Like Us. I didn't love it. So it kind of sounded to me like bro punk, kind of. And I just didn't find anything. It didn't really get me going. But then this summer, I had a change of heart and kind of fell in love with that album and fell in love with that band. And their style is so just straightforward. They wear their heart on their sleeve. And for a 40-year-old man to be singing songs like about being a teenager could be very, very cringy. But you can just tell that Alex James actually is still such a young soul and so earnest about it that it works. And of course, the songs are just so. The songwriting is just so straightforward, like fist pumping rock and roll that it got me going every time. So I knew this album would not be a progression in sound, and I thought I'd be okay with it. And I enjoyed this album a lot, but I was left a little wanting. I will say. This time it just wasn't quite as exciting, and hopefully they can change a little bit. I mean, they're kind of a topsy-turvy place, though, because, I mean, they kind of broke up on stage back in April, and then kind of got over that though. But then I think their drummer left this summer, and then a couple weeks ago they had their guitarist leave over sexual assault allegations. So apparently Alex James is just touring solo right now, and like just playing songs with just him and his guitar. So on this tour, so it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward, and hopefully if they do, I mean, like come together. Hopefully they can change it up a little bit, but overall I still fucking love what they're doing, and I want to keep hearing from Alex James. So that's my review.
All right, because I know AJ has been praising the record also. I think along with you, rest in peace, AJ. Our baby boy is not here for tonight's podcast. Because I know he'd have a lot to say about like half the albums we've talked about. Like he'd have a lot to say about Rosenstock. I know he'd have a lot to say about clipping because I know Zach and him are the big clipping boys of the podcast. But yeah, Zach, you want to talk about an album together? Want to talk about Sirens? Actually, Alex, you're into this one too, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Electronic
Do it.
music. Pick
So
one.
I'm not the Nicolas Jaar. I think Zach, you're the more which between Alex and you, Zach.
Zach.
Who's the
Zach
one?
is definitely the biggest.
Okay,
Nicolas
Zach,
Jaar
I'll
fan.
let you
Probably
take it
me.
away. I'll let you take it away.
So, Sirens is Nicolas Jaar's first album in 5 years after his debut album Space Only Noise, which was really good. And in between that, he had this side project Dark Side with Dave Harrington, I think that's his name, and they put out an album called Psychic, which was also really good. And then sort of nothing for Nicolas Jaar himself. A few EPs, a weird like soundtrack thing called Pomegranates last year, but nothing really else. And then he comes out with this, and oh man, the 5 years that they were worth the wait if that's the end result. Like, I thought about Psychic a lot while listening to this album, and the biggest comparison I can make is that they both start with their longest and best songs. Like, Golden Arrow is a hell of a track, but Killing Time is also a hell of a track. Like, Nicolas Jaar has opening tracks on lock.
We differ. I like Killing Time, but I don't know. It's just like the rest of the album is such a powerhouse for me, and
I mean,
I don't know. It's too spacious, I guess. Like, it loses my attention at some point.
I mean, it's no Three Sides of Nazareth. All right, it's no Three Sides of Nazareth.
Yeah,
that's been the standout track for me on this album. Has been like, holy shit, that is a fucking revelation. You know?
Yeah, my favorites are The Governor and Three Sides. The Governor is just like a great, like, makes me feel like I'm like in Germany, living the nightlife and going to techno clubs. And it's just really good.
Also No is a really groovy track that kind of reminds me a little bit of like for some reason I'm getting like really heavy like Arca vibes from that track, even though it doesn't really sound that much like Arca. It's kind of like Arca but a bit slower, and you know, like I guess kind of more like Arca's like earlier stuff on his EPs. I was kind of reminded of that on the track No.
Actually, you know what the Governor reminds me of?
What?
Tom York. Not the part where the song picks up, but the parts after the chorus plays, where it's just like this glitched out piano, really reminds me of Tomorrow's Modern Boxes. And Tom wasn't the first person to do that like style, but as a stan, it jumps out at me.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I need to listen to it more, give it some more listens, since it's a really like. It's something that I think I could be really, really into. I just need but it's like it's pretty, you know, it's 6 tracks and like half of them are over or really like close to like 10 minutes. So I need to like listen to it, digest it a little bit more, as I really do dig it. It's definitely up my alley of weird electronic shit. So yeah, I also need to check out his first album too, and also Dark Side. He's got a lot of stuff I need to check out. God damn.
I can't believe you guys didn't mention History Lesson. History Lesson is such a great closer.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And if I had to tie it up in a bow, it's pretty much all killer, no filler. Every song pulls its own weight. It's really strong. So listen to it if you haven't. There. Let's go.
All right, next album. Let's see who. Alex, you actually want to take the next album?
Which record?
Just your choice.
Oh, do you want to do Schmilko, Will?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'll do a quick rundown. This isn't a revelation. I think I would have like loved this album if it had been like produced with more experimental textures and like just, I don't know, a couple different sonic ideas. Like, because at the core, these songs are like lyrically some of Jeff Tweedy's best in a while. But it just doesn't like, I don't know, it doesn't hold my attention enough.
Yeah, at first I kind of liked this album, but a lot of it's just, it's a little bit, I know they wanted to go for their kind of folksier album, a more subtle album, but it just got a little bit lost in translation, became a little bit too subtle for me.
Yeah. And I also, like, I don't know, because they're doing this straightforward style that's been done a million times before, but every once in a while there's, like, this weird jump. Like, there's kind of, like, an Americana, like, country rock song, and, I'm trying to think of which track it is, in there, and, like, I don't know, just random jumps that feel out of place because the rest of the album is so consistent and, like, focused in this one style that's been done.
Yeah, I like
before.
all the singles. Like, If I Ever Was a Child, Someone to Lose, that's my favorite track on here. And then also Locator, that's a wild song. Only 2 minutes, but
Yeah.
gives you a lot to chew on in those 2 minutes. And there's a lot of interesting songs like I don't remember if I haven't listened to it in a few weeks, but Cry All Day or Common Sense. One of those songs are really interesting. But yeah, just a lot of it just kind of blends together and doesn't really do a whole lot. But you're right, it is one of Jeff Tweedy's most interesting lyrical albums, which is why I need to give it some more listens and thought.
Yeah.
Because he's daddy.
Yeah, see, I wanna be sitting down with this album and spending time with it, but just sonically it doesn't excite me.
Rip. All right, let's move on to. Want to do Leonard Cohen?
I could talk about it really quick since I think I'm the only one on this podcast who's listened to it. Listen,
That's true.
my top two albums this year are the new Nick Cave record and the new David Bowie record. I know a thing or two about Fuck Me Up Core and this
And
new
about
Leonard
aging.
Cohen.
And
this-
aging.
Yeah, and this
Pastor
new Leonard
Prime.
Cohen album. This new Leonard Cohen album is Fuck Me Up Core to the nth degree. It's just like, well, that's what you expect from a Leonard Cohen album, really. But I don't know, something about the press surrounding this album has made it even more serious than it normally would be. I don't know. I only heard it for the first time a few days ago, so my thoughts are really scattered. I'm just talking off the top of my head, but it's really strong, and if this is his last album before he passes on, I'll be sad, but it's a hell of a way to go out.
I think, I don't know, like, from what I've heard about this album, I still haven't listened to it, even though I've been getting into Leonard. From what I've heard about this album, it very much, like, feels like a sister record to Skeleton Tree and Black Star. Like, they're all from kind of aging rock icons, and although Leonard Cohen wasn't really a rock musician, and they're all kind of like focused on death, and they're all but just like a different aspect of it, because Leonard Cohen is facing death. Well, Bowie was also facing death, but in a more like
sick, or
direct
is he
way.
just super old?
No, he's just old and like thinking about it. And then Nick Cave, his son, died. Although a lot of those songs were written before that happened. And I just think it's fascinating and kind of heartbreaking that they all came out at like around the same time. That's it.
Leonard
It's
Cohen,
really sad. It's what you'd expect from a Leonard Cohen album.
He old and dying. That's the narrative.
Yeah.
Alex, do you you want to quickly tackle Solange real quick?
A seat at the table. All right. So Matty and I.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1, we're gonna say what we think of it. Okay, ready?
It's
3, 2, 1. It's boring.
Yeah, it's woke, but it's boring. I appreciate the lyricism and what she was trying to do, but I don't know.
It's musically really.
It doesn't.
It's too low key.
Yeah.
Like
there are some songs on here that are fucking balls to the wall amazing. Like Weary. I think Weary is a really, really incredible song. But as a project, it doesn't excite me.
Yeah, I think Don't Touch My Hair is also a pretty solid track. But overall, I'm definitely just like, really? Like, this is it? Like, obviously, I respect the concept of the album, you know, like... But at the same time, though, it's like other records have kind of done this concept a lot better and made it more musically interesting. And it's just, you know... Because we obviously we've seen a lot of artists kind of trying to do that lately, and it's also it's greatly appreciated, obviously, because I think, you know, it has sparked some of the best albums of the decade so far. You know, D'Angelo's album was fantastic. Obviously,
T-Pab.
obviously, To Pimp a Butterfly. I thought Blood Orange's album was pretty good, and I also kind of dealt with that. I'm trying to think of like one more, and like I'm losing it.
Run the Jewels too.
Still crazy.
I can't see. Well, Will can say.
I'm not
actually, Will, I will give you that, Will.
Both
I will give
iffy
you that.
but correct suggestions.
But yeah, it's more of I respect the concept of the record, but like musically, it does nothing for me. It's so boring. Like it's really nice to hear. Thing is, it's really nice to put on the background while you're doing something else, but it did not hold my attention in the slightest. But I do respect it. So that's all I gotta say. So
can I do Jenny?
Yeah, go on ahead.
Jenny.
All right.
Jenny
Hval. I first saw Jenny live, or I first encountered her because she opened for St. Vincent and Perfume Genius, both shows I saw within the same month, and she just put on a really fascinating live set. I listened to the album that she put out, Apocalypse Girl, and it was all right. Like some of the songs were really brilliant, but others felt overwrought. This album is kind of more of that, but just even more aggressively brilliant. So basically my main issue with this is she didn't write songs. Like she half the album feels like half the album is kind of like ambient interludes with spoken word pieces, and they're interesting, but they don't, like, after so much of it, I start to lose focus. Like, again, a lot of the records on this list have that problem with me. But Conceptual Romance is one of the most brilliant pieces of lyricism I've, like, heard this year, and the melody on it and just everything about that song is so perfect and so, like, immediate too, for me at least. Like it's experimental, but it's so there, and I feel a distinct human connection with her as an artist when I listen to that song. And just the other songs on this album fit that too, but a lot of the album is just kind of like ambience and recordings of conversations or spoken word pieces, and it just doesn't, it feels like it kind of falls apart. But other than that, this is an incredible album, and Jenny is a brilliant artist, and I really can't wait to hear more from her.
Yeah, I actually listened to this album too, and this is my first time listening to her. I haven't listened to her other music yet. And this isn't typically my usual, her brand of experimental pop isn't my typical fare. But I actually really enjoyed this album. I mean, it probably won't end up in my year-end list or anything, but I mean, I love the vibe of it. And I agree. It's way too much interludes. Though I do like that one where she's like talking about like.
Yeah, that one's really.
She's talking about the theme of the.
I already knew what you were gonna talk about because you mentioned this before, and.
Yeah, I like the one where she's talking about the theme of the album, talking about like. Talking about vampire. I don't even remember what her point is, but I just remember I like that one. But actually, the song I like is "Secret Touch," the penultimate track. That's a very good pop tune, but not really pop, but kind of. Yeah. I enjoy. And then Lorna is a really cool closer. Like, it's kind of like an interlude of a closer, but has like a really cool synth line going. It's really sinister and badass. So I love it. But there are some ones like Period Piece and The Plague and stuff like that, like Untamed Region. That's just naughty. Anyways. It makes me think of something kind of sick. But anyways, yeah, I like this. It's not my typical thing, but I enjoy it. It has its flaws, but I like the vibe of it. And if she can just like harness this like ambiance into a more cohesive album, I'm all aboard.
Yeah, I want her to go all in next time.
Drop the bullshit.
I really think she could drop like a 10 out of 10 album. She's so fucking talented.
Did you see her at Pitchfork, Alex?
I did not.
I
thought she played Pitchfork Paris.
No, she played at the last Pitchfork Fest we were at. She played, yeah. I think she was the first day, and she was like really early on. I know she was on Blue Stage. So
I think I missed her, but it wasn't like that big of a deal to me because again, I've seen her twice.
Yeah. So let's get to another album. I just want to give a quick shout out to the new Ways Blood album, Front Row Seat to Earth. I just added this at the last minute. If you really like Julia Holter, I think I really dig this album. It has sort of the same kind of chamber pop vibes, but it's a lot more vintage. Like it's a lot more folk inspired, but also these like very like kind of large sounding. Maybe not large is the correct word, but it's definitely it's a little orchestral. It basically has like that full feeling of like Julia Holter's music, but it's a lot more like vintage and organic than Julia Holter. Where with Julia, there's this like, wait, who? Oh, Ways Blood, Front Row Seat to Earth.
No, I said ooh because that excited me.
Oh, yeah. I love Julia Holter, but this Ways Blood album has a much more, again, organic feel to it. A much more, I don't want to say genuine because I feel like Julia Holter's music is very genuine. Yeah. But it's so definitely
personal and like earnest, and she's so good.
I think the best way to start it is like kind of Julia Holter, but a bit more vintage and not as like, and much more like Julia Holter is a bit more. It's kind of like analog, with like synths and whatnot, and the sort of chamber pop vibe. This is a bit more analog on like a little like Fleetwood Mac side, I guess, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I really recommend this album. It's really great. I want to definitely give it more listens. As Sabrina from the Indie Chat, or Strange Mercy on Twitter, rec it to me, and it's really good. Just want to give it a quick shout out. So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
I'll definitely check that out. That sounds nice.
I might give it a listen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like
Sonic
it.
Peak.
I know Jeremiah would like it. I think I wrecked it to him in the chat. Like, hey, you gotta check out this record because I think it'd be totally up your alley. But yeah, let someone else talk about another album, which we don't really have that many. We only have like 2 left, I think.
I think they're both Zach's records too.
So let's talk about Regina Spektor.
Oh boy, I hope you like the sound of my voice because I'm talking about all 3 of these last albums.
We can maybe
Regina Spektor. I guess Ruminations, even though I love it.
We'll keep it.
Okay,
anyways,
let's go. Regina Spektor. Okay, I had no expectations going into this, and that kind of hurt to say when you have someone like Regina, who was my gateway indie artist, but Far and what we saw from the Cheap Seats didn't really do much for me, despite them both having some standout tracks, and the singles didn't really grab my attention either. With that being said, I'm pleased to note that, in my opinion, this is her best album since at least Begin to Hope. Will and I actually listened to it at the same time one night, so he probably has as much to say about it as I do. So what did you think?
I actually don't have as much to say about it as you. Actually, I don't know. I mean, I'm not as big a fan of her as you are. I've only listened to Soviet Kitsch and now Remember Us to Life. And I don't think this album is nearly as consistent as that album is. But I like this. I mean, she kind of reminds me. She's like the closest thing I could think of to a Joanna Newsom-like artist. Like, she's definitely not as wild as her. Like, in spirit, she definitely feels similar to me, which I appreciate a lot. And this album has a lot of kind of experimental. I mean, it has a lot of her typical just piano ballads, but it also has some more like electronics in here, very subtly implemented. It's not heavy-fisted, but some interesting stuff. And then my Small Bills is absolutely my jam. It's a wild, wild song with the hook is like her almost kind of like yodeling, like oh yeah 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 da 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 da. It's like modern, it's like subtle, it's like, but she's like yodeling. It's crazy. Then in the verses, she's like almost rapping, but it's not. But the thing is, like, it's not like corny at all. Like it's very like just. I love that song. It's absolutely my jam.
I will agree. Small Bills is a bop. It's definitely a bop.
You've heard it, yeah.
I've heard.
See, now I'm gonna feel like an asshole because that was my least favorite song.
Yeah, I kind of get it because, like I said, the way I explain it, like all those elements sound bad, but she rocks it. I think
it's definitely got, like, I know the rap thing you're talking about. It definitely has the same kind of like vocal intonations as rap, but it's definitely not like her actually like rapping. It's just sort of the more kind of the rhythm that she's going at in her singing is very similar to rap, but it's definitely, you know, at the end of the day, it's singing. So.
Yeah, but it's just very creative, and I like it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I get it's a polarize. It can definitely be a polarizing track. I get that.
Yeah. So Zach,
it's a little darker than what you would usually expect from Regina Spektor, but then that's probably a matter of her public persona as this like manic pixie dream girl that was really popular when she was getting really popular. Catherine St. Aspa talked about that in her review of the album for Pitchfork, and I thought that was really interesting. It's a more mature record in a sense, in that it transposes her typical ideas into a minor key. The end result is a really solid, enjoyable chamber pop record. This isn't the same Regina Spektor who made Soviet Kitsch, which is one of my 10 favorite albums of all time, but that isn't a bad thing. This is a record from an older, maybe a little bit wiser Regina, who is a mother and a wife. And it's a record I look forward to revisiting as the year draws to a close. So that's kind of it.
Now back to Zach with another album.
Oh, man. I guess since it's my choice, I'm going to go with the one I like a bit more. Hamilton Lighthouser and Rostam's I Had a Dream That You Were Mine. Hamilton Lighthouser, formerly of the Walkmen, Rostam, formerly of Vampire Weekend, or maybe it should be the other way around. The two first worked together when Rostam produced 2 songs on Lighthouser's post-Walkmen solo debut, Black Hours. Not coincidentally, those 2 tracks were widely hailed as the best on the album. Those 2 stayed in touch in the years since, and now here we have a collaboration between the 2, and it's about as good as you would expect from 2 titans of New York indie. Like, I think 1,000 Times is overrated. It didn't really grab me like so many other songs on this album do. It's a decent opener, but it doesn't do much for me. Luckily, Sick as a Dog straight through to You Ain't That Young Kid is a tremendous run. Every track works on some level or another, and 3 of them, In a Blackout, When the Truth Is, and You Ain't That Young Kid, are absolutely flawless. They're like the perfect marriage of Rostam's production and Hamilton's songwriting and singing. I think things take a little bit of a dive after that, but it closes really strong with 1959, and the guest vocal from Angel, I'm going to pronounce this poorly, Deradurian? Is that right? It sounds right.
Angel Deradurian, formerly of Dury Projectors, and she was an A.V. Terrace band at some point.
Are they married?
I know they're dating, but there's like that. There's this one band like Roller Coaster something. They released a song called A.V. Terrace, and like in the SoundCloud description, they were talking about like how the song got made, and that like, you know, A.V. introduced this to his wife Angel. And everyone knew they were dating, but you know, the marriage part, it's unconfirmed. But continue.
Yeah, she contributes a really great guest vocal. The production, as you would expect from a Rostam project, is great, and I think Vampire Weekend is really going to miss him when they drop their next album. But the thing that wowed me was Hamilton Lighthouser. His performance on this album is amazing. It's so good, it's convinced me to take a look at the Walkmen, which is a journey that I'm really excited to take after listening to this album so many times. If I had to rank it, it's somewhere in that 6 to 10 weird zone for me, but that's not a bad thing. It's a really, really strong record. I really enjoyed it. Matt, did you listen to it before the podcast like you said you would? Or
no, what happened was I was going to listen to it, but then I'm like, oh shit, I have to do this video editing project, so I had to do that instead of listening to this. So
I listened to this.
I'm sorry, Zach.
And I kind of want to love it just because I think Rostam is part of what made Vampire Weekend so great, especially Modern Vampires in the City. His production is absolutely top notch across that record, one of the best produced albums I've heard in years. But I just can't get excited about his solo career, and this just really wasn't any different for me. I don't know, just none of the songs really excited me and didn't really get me going. Wasn't my style, but that doesn't make it a bad album per se.
And hey, that's okay too.
Yep.
Can I speak to Vampire Weekend real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
The next album is not going to be any different. Rostam is staying on to produce and help them record, and that was basically his role in the first place. It's just he's not going to tour with them.
Well, that's a relief.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
So let me try to close this up with some words on the new Conor Oberst record. Do I need to go over the circumstances surrounding its creation? Because I think they're pretty well known by now.
I mean, I don't really know. I don't know exactly. So.
I don't know them at all. Yeah.
I know them, but I'll let you.
Too long didn't read. 1 or 2 years ago, someone accused Conor of raping her at a concert back a decade ago. He was taken to trial. She eventually recanted. And somewhere in between the trial period and now, there was this really nasty snowstorm in Omaha that kept Conor in his house. And he decided, you know what, I'm going to write an album, record it, just me, my guitar, my harmonica, and my piano, and put it out. And so that's what he did. And here we have Ruminations. I agree with what Ian Cohen said about how the album sounds. He absolutely sounds like he recorded this in a snowed-in Nebraska cabin. He just sounds utterly isolated on this album, and I think, in a way, that's sort of what makes it the best thing he's put his name on since his self-titled in 2007, 2008, I don't remember. And, well, that's sort of back-ending it, but in a way, it's kind of a return to the original themes that sustained him in the Bright Eyes days. And despite the circumstances surrounding the record, he really doesn't allow himself to be self-pitying all that much. The one time I can think of it was You All Loved Him Once, which is a song I have a love-hate relationship with, but I'm going on too long anyways. It makes sense, if not because he's matured somewhat from the person he was 10 years ago, then because of the background. A lot of his solo work, it's Conor Oberst, Omaha singer-songwriter, trying to escape the legend of Conor Oberst, Bright Eyes frontman and indie icon. He doesn't want to be that person anymore, but he can't really help it, which is one of the themes of this album. It's really good. It's better than I was expecting, and if you need a record for the inevitable feelings of solitude and loneliness that winter tends to bring, Ruminations is it. I recommend it. And I think we got through them all, folks.
That is everything. That is our longest album catch-up ever, I think. I think usually the album catch-up is usually it's 4 or 5 albums, sometimes 3 to 4, and we're just everything, just throw everything in.
We're in a fucking gauntlet, man.
We probably missed some albums.
No, we did miss some albums. My original was 20 albums.
We missed a couple albums. I think I put down Parquet Courts, but I think we decided that's a little too.
That's way too
old. But
this is a great album.
But Alex and I love it.
I put Preoccupations on here, but I don't really care about them that much.
We talked about them on the podcast at length a couple episodes ago. I need to listen to that album a bit more. As I am a sucker for the post-punk revival. I love Preoccupations. I'm not as big as Proto Martyr.
This man calls emo revival bad.
Okay, shut up, Will. I swear to God. Swear to God.
This man's.
Swear to God. But is there any items that I'm looking at my top 24 and seeing if we missed anything? There's this album that
Cymbals, guitars.
Oh, but we talked about AJ talked about that at length a little bit.
Okay, it's an awesome album.
It's
I love it.
There's this.
Go see them if they're in your city. It's a good show.
God, there's this one album, guys, that I'm remembering that I don't know if we've talked about on the podcast before. It's by this band called Japanese Breakfast. It's called Psychopomp. I'm not really sure. I don't think anyone's on the.
I'm gonna hang up.
Sorry, man. That's what I get for trying to do a fucking bit. But yeah, that's about it for the catch-up. I think we got through everything. There's no other albums that I really want to shout out.
Real quick, shout out Jerem's album. It was really good. Reverse shout out the No Worries album. It wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be.
But it's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's still pretty good.
Shouts out to Serpent Music by God, I can't pronounce his name. It's like YVES Tumor. I got right that by Peppersmith on the subreddit. It's a good album. And then
which one?
It's like Serpent Music by YVES Tumor. That's pretty solid. Shouts out to the Killers real quick. Shouts out to the Killers. I got into the Killers between podcasts. I fucking love Hot Fuss now. Samstown, haven't quite got to it yet, but I fucking love Hot Fuss. And also, shouts out to Jesse Lanza. That's a pretty solid, experimental pop rocker that kind of went past our podcast radar.
I want one.
You want to give a shout out?
Shouts out to Mike Cadrius of Perfume Genius, because he's recording a new album. Ooh, and I'm in love with him.
I'm so excited. I'm really.
Also, want to give a shout out to Tom DeLonge. No. Separation makes the heart grow fonder, and it's not that he's not in Blink-182. He's just doing Aliens. I love that man.
I seriously cannot believe that during the DNC email leaks, there was an email from him in there, asking.
That actually does not surprise me at all. You don't know how far down the wormhole he is.
I'm not surprised. It's just Jesus Christ.
2016, baby.
Oh God.
I guess that's a good note to end on. I think.
Also before we end it, we're doing a quick little little contest on our symbol page. I have 2 download codes to the new Danny Brown album. Want to give them away to some people, some fans of the podcast. So really simple. Just make a post on Symbol with the hashtag Indieheads Podcast, and you are entered to win one of 2 of these download codes I have to give away. So, yep, that's all I gotta say. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Indieheads Pod. Facebook, facebook.com/Indieheads Podcast. Make sure to like us on MySpace. Make sure we're in your top 8. Make sure to upvote the podcast on Reddit. This is not vote grading.
Shill for us.
Wishful thinking.
And also, speaking of the subreddit, on the next podcast, I have a very exciting announcement to make for the next podcast about the subreddit. So,
drumroll.
It's not happening yet, but you'll find out. You'll find out in due time. Probably by the next episode for sure. So yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, and we will see y'all later. Peace out.
See ya.
Au revoir.